Hey everybody, I just want to come at you here with some good news. The state of Texas has dropped its appeal of a recent ruling from a judge there in Texas that the law that says 18 to 20-year-olds cannot carry guns in public is unconstitutional. Like I say, they have dropped their appeal to that. So that means that ruling is going to stand unchallenged for now, meaning 18 to 20-year-olds will be able to carry a firearm in Texas. I believe it's the first state that will allow that. In fact, I know it's the first state that will allow that, or this wouldn't be a big deal. It is a big deal. And I know a lot of people are saying, well, this is great news. And then there's some people saying, well, this is kind of terrible news. Think all the bad things that are going to happen when children basically are carrying guns. And you're going to hear that a lot from the left. Oh, children can carry guns in Texas now. Well, here's the thing. 18-year-olds are not children. They are adults. Now, whether they are physically adults, well, that's another matter, but legally, they're adults. And a lot of people now are getting to figure out you don't get to choose which rights someone gets when they turn an adult and which ones they don't. Now, I know that everybody is well aware of what I think of people that are 18. I don't want anything to do with any of them. I barely want anything to do with the one that I own that's 18. So I don't really care for 18-year-olds being able to do most things. In fact, I don't think that until you're 25, I think people under 25 should not be allowed out in polite society, especially not alone. If they go outside their home, they should be accompanied by an adult, and they should only be allowed to be going to work or school. And they shouldn't definitely be allowed to talk to adult people. They should stick to themselves until they're old enough to have something to say, as far as I'm concerned. So I think everyone knows how I feel about 18-year-olds having any rights whatsoever. But here's the reality. They're adults. They get their rights. Society doesn't get to pick and choose. Politicians have been doing that for years. They want to, you can't drink till you're 21. You can't buy cigarettes or something till you're 21. You can't do this till you're 21. But if you need to die in a war, you can do that. And we definitely want you to be able to vote. And there's reasons for that. The political parties, they want, 18-year-olds to vote. They even want 16-year-olds to vote. But they want that because, the more uninformed voters, the better. The more easily swayed voters, the better. And historically, that's been really good for the Democratic Party for a while now. So they don't want that to go away. So they want everyone to be an adult at 18 so they can vote. They even, like I said, want it to happen at 16 now, which is ridiculous. And on the other side of the coin, the people who support the military-industrial complex, which has been historically more Republicans than Democrats, although they all do it, they definitely want 18-year-olds to be able to go to war because the blood of young 18-year-olds, especially poor 18-year-olds, is what oils the wheels of the military-industrial complex. If people couldn't join the military till they were 21, you'd see a lot different way we do things. You'd see the way we do things become a lot different. You wouldn't be going to wars to protect political interests because people wouldn't join. Because at 21, they have other options. They're smarter than that. So we would have to be a little bit more selective about how we use our industrial power, our military industrial power. So they don't want that happening. So they want 18-year-olds to be adults. But then as soon as it comes to doing something that they don't want them to do, like own a gun, even the Republicans are like, oh, it's too young. And I agree. It is too young. People are not physiologically mature at that age. That doesn't happen until you're almost 25, but I'm willing to compromise and say 21. But here's the thing. If you want to say people, and I've said this many times before, if you want to say someone can't carry a gun at 18, they can't have those other things at 18 either. They can't vote or they can't become a soldier because they're either an adult or they're not. This picking and choosing when people get rights, it's garbage. So like I say, I'm not a big fan of 18-year-olds doing anything outside their own mother's basement, but I'm understanding that if a constitutional right is a constitutional right, it's for everybody. And if you're an adult at 18, then all those rights are for you. Every right society affords an adult is for that 18-year-old when they turn 18 years old. And if you don't like that, if you want to make the argument of, the days have passed where every person is the one surviving child out of 12 and they get married at 15 and have babies at 16 because, by the time they're 20, they have to take over the family homestead because their dad, died at like 32 because he was either eaten by a bear or, died from a stubbed toe that got infected. Those days are long gone. And those days weren't so great. You had a lot of people who were not capable of handling the things that they got shoved on them when they got shoved on them. That's why you saw so much alcoholism and domestic violence, and it was accepted, everything. All those things. People love to look at the past through rose-colored glasses. Oh, it was so great. No, it wasn't. Hell, the 60s fucking sucked, and the 70s sucked. I was there. So this whole idea that it was perfect back then, they were men and they did what they had to do. No, a lot of them descended into nut jobbiness. So not a good thing at 18 years old to be saddled with all that responsibility. So if you wanted to make that argument today, I'll listen to that. But it has to be an all or nothing. You have to say, hey, you don't get your rights till you're 21. You don't get to drink or smoke or drive driving I'm okay with at 18, but maybe 16 we need to look at. Not doing that anymore. That was back when people needed to get to work at 16. Most 16-year-olds don't even work these days. But the big things like owning a gun, carrying a gun, etc. If you want to make that 18 or if you want to make that 21, then the other things like voting and military service, that has to also be 21. And because of that, no one will ever even suggest that. So for right now, the way the law stands, the way the Constitution is written, 18-year-olds should definitely be allowed to carry guns. And this is good news that Texas is finally recognizing that. They are the first state to say, yeah, if we're going to say you can die for your country, well, then you can definitely, carry a 38 on your hip. Of course you can. If we can trust you to go overseas and shed your blood for us, well, then we have to let you exercise your rights while you're still inside the country. It just makes sense. So I'm saying it's very good news now that Texas will allow 18 to 20-year-olds to carry a gun, because that's how the Constitution works and that's how laws should work. You don't get to pick and choose. If you want to change the standards of what being an adult is, I will listen to that argument. But the way things are right now, like I said, the idea that 18-year-olds should have all their rights is the way it should be.